Good evening, students. Welcome back to this video segment. As usual, my name is Samuel Chukwuemeka. And in this video segment, we shall prove the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. The use of the quadratic formula is another method for solving quadratic equations. And like I said initially, for completing the square video, I said that completing the square is a very important formula. It's a very important method. Actually, we shall use completing the square to derive this quadratic formula. So, for you to understand this proof, I would encourage you to view the videos on factoring first. Factoring quadratic trinomials, then solving quadratic equations, and also solving quadratic equations using completing the square method. Yeah, that video on completing the square is very important for you to understand this proof. Now, some people in America they call it quadratic formula, but in Nigeria some folks call it almighty formula. I don't really like calling it almighty formula. I don't really like calling it almighty formula because there are so many statistical formulas that are more than this one. Why would you call it almighty formula anyway? And you know the word almighty, we don't want to classify something as almighty, no. But that's what some folks call it in Nigeria. And when I was a student, then that's what we used to call it. But I wouldn't call it that almighty now. No, I wouldn't call something almighty. No way. Okay, but some ways they call it quadratic formula. And we prove it from completing the square method. Now, this is just the proof. I'm not going to solve any question. I will just prove it. In Nigeria, they do want us to know how to prove it. I don't know here, sometimes they don't want you to learn how to prove it, but we need to know how to prove it. So that's why I'm doing this video on it. Alright, recall the general form of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. Recall this, we've done it. So we're going to use completing the square method. Using completing the square method, because that is what we will use. After this video, I will get the formula, then the next video I will solve questions using the formula. So using the completing the square method, we have that ax squared, let me write this for ax squared plus bx will give us negative c. Of course, that's the first thing. And the coefficient of x squared is a. So divide both sides by a, so as to make the coefficient of x squared to be unity, to be 1. So as to make the coefficient of x squared unity, 1. Right? So we have ax squared divided by a plus bx divided by a equal to negative c divided by a. That's what we got. And we cancel out, we cross out that. So we have x squared plus bx over a equal to negative c over a. Right? Then we can apply the, completing the square method. The first step is make x squared to be unity. The second step is now find what you will add here to make the expression a perfect square. So, of course, we have a coefficient of x. Coefficient of x is what? B over a. Okay, then you half of it. 1/2 of it. Half of it means 1/2 of it, okay? 1/2 of it means 1 over 2 times b over a. So that is b over 2a. B over 2a. And then square it. Square the result. Square the result. Remember, it is square of half of coefficient of x. Square of half of coefficient of x. Remember, in that video, square of half of coefficient of x. Okay? So if you square the result, it will be b over 2a. B over 2a all squared. Right? And that will give you b squared over 4a squared. That will give you b squared over 4a squared. So let's just add this, okay? This is x squared plus bx over a plus b over 2a all squared is equal to negative c over a plus b over 2a all squared. Right? So we now have it that x plus b over 2a all squared, because if you factor this out, remember, if you factor this out, it's going to give you this. Okay? Equal to, but if you want me to kind of break it down, look at what I mean here. If you want me to kind of break it down, this will be x squared plus bx over a plus b squared over 4a squared equal to negative c over a plus b squared over 4a squared. But even if I didn't write this step, it does not matter. Because from here, you know that if you factor this, it's just a shortcut, So x, if you factor that, it will give you x plus b over 2a all squared is equal to negative c over a plus b squared over 4a squared. Okay, now we've got to, we now have to solve this fraction. Okay, so we have that x plus b over 2a all squared is equal to LCD here. What's the LCD? That is 4a squared, right? So 4a squared divided by a is 4a. What are you going to multiply this? 4a. 4a times negative c is negative 4ac. I hope you understood this, because this is like, if I've got to explain this, look at the way it will be. Because some folks probably does not understand it. Then plus b squared. Look, this is negative c over a, and this is b squared over 4a squared. So LCD here is what? 4a squared, and this is 4a squared. Then this is times 4a. Whatever you do to the denominator, you do to the numerator. So negative c times 4a, negative 4ac. And then b, this is times 1, b squared. So that's how you got this, negative 4ac plus b squared. Okay, so this is now x plus b over 2a all squared equal to, now, usually we don't like negatives to be in front in formulas. We don't. Like, instead of saying negative 2 plus 5, why can't you just say 5 minus 2 or 5 negative 2? Okay? We don't usually like the first thing coming to be negative. Although it still doesn't matter. Okay? This is now b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. Right? So I'm going to complete this over here. b will now be, let me write it, x plus b over 2a all squared equal to b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. So we take the square root of both sides. So this is x plus b over 2a equal to plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. Right? So this is x plus b over 2a equal to plus or minus radicals. Now this is square root of b squared minus 4ac all over square root of 4a squared. Okay? X plus b over 2a equal to plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over what? 2a. Because square root of 4 is 2, square root of a squared is a. Okay, radicals. So now we now have that x is equal to negative b over 2a plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So you see, they have the same denominator. So put them together. So x will be negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? And that becomes your answer. That's the general formula. Not the almighty formula. I would not, like I said, I'm not going to call it almighty formula. Almighty is what we use for God above. Okay, God Almighty. So I'm not going to use formula almighty. No. And there are even, it's not even a mighty form, because there are so many formulas in statistics that are more difficult, that are more challenging than this one. There are formulas in statistics that are very, very much challenging than this one. So I wouldn't call it that. General formula or quadratic formula, that's what Americans call it. Okay, and I go by that. Now, this means that you know, when you have a quadratic equation, you have two solutions. So you can have that x is equal to negative b plus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, or you can have that x is equal to negative b minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So this, and it's finished. So the next video we shall find the applications of this. Okay, thank you so much, students, and you have a great evening.